Good morning, everyone. Lots going on as usual. Today is Friday, October 10th. Happy Thanksgiving weekend. My gosh, I really enjoy Thanksgiving. Although sometimes it's a little early. I'm glad it's kind of chilly. It's getting chilly out. So I hope you've got lots of Thanksgiving plans, and I hope your weekend goes wonderfully and there's too much pumpkin pie and too much family, etc. Over Christmas, right? People get sick of family and then they go to the bar. It's funny. Anyway, J.K. Rowling is targeted by the Vancouver Park Board, and she responds, and it's hilarious because she's hilarious. And it's quite funny. I've got that for you. And I've actually got the Park Board talking about how terrible J.K. Rowling is to preface it. So that's fun. Canada harmed the peace talks between Hamas and Israel that Donald Trump was trying to coordinate with the Abraham protocols, I can't remember what it's called, the Abraham something. But he's trying to make peace in the Middle East, and Canada is, now that it's done, trying to take credit. And so we'll look at that, which is pretty funny because it has to do with the other big story today, which is the Nobel Prize that Trump is not allowed to win, right? Ireland responds to the EU about hate speech laws, and Trump is not allowed to win the Nobel Peace Prize. So we're going to start there. So lots to get to. Let's get to it first. Anita Anand is taking credit for Trump's win. Dahlia says, Minister Anita Anand and her Palestinian-colored scarf brag about how helpful Canada's been to the peace talks. Just minutes after I shared Marco Rubio saying Canada has been a hindrance, someone's been getting her acting chops from Pollywood, Anita. I don't know what Pollywood is. Here is Marco Rubio talking about all of the other places being a hindrance to the peace process. Here's Marco Rubio.
Have you noticed that the talks with Hamas fell apart on the day Macron made the unilateral decision that he's going to recognize a Palestinian state? And then you have other people come forward, other countries say, well, if there's not a ceasefire by September, we're going to recognize a Palestinian state. Well, if I'm Hamas, I basically conclude, let's not do a ceasefire. Right. Because we can be rewarded and we can claim it as a victory. So those messages, while largely symbolic in their minds, actually have made it harder to get peace and harder to achieve a deal with Hamas. They feel emboldened. Have you noticed that the talk?
Yeah. So, and Anita Anand claiming she's got a minute and a half talking about this. The real Mr. Bench says Anita Anand claims she helped get a Middle East peace deal. Marco Rubio says says France and other countries, Starmer, UK, Canada, Carney, hindered the peace talks. I trust Marco Rubio long before I trust Anita Anand. And it's a minute 38, and I just don't want to listen to the nonsense and spin and lies, etc. And there were Nobel Peace Talks and the Abraham Accords. That's what it is, not the protocols. The Abraham Accords. That's what it is. And so Trump, in his first term, put together the Abraham Accords and tried to bring peace to the Middle East, but didn't start any new wars. And then in his second term, he's wrapped up something like 8 conflicts in the last 6 months. And he's called out the UN and said, listen, you guys, what do you do here exactly? I come in here like a wrecking ball and I fix all your stuff that you guys were supposed to fix. And it seems like you guys were just paying for migrants to come into the United States. What's up with that? And so now these people who he's embarrassed by bringing peace to the Middle East, and honestly, that's genuinely what he has done. That's what all the newspapers are saying. Everybody's talking about this. This is a big, big deal. This is a legacy that's far beyond President Trump. This is a big, big deal, right? Peace in the Middle East. How long will it last? We'll see. There are people who are criticizing the deal already because Israel's already broken it. They're firing rockets at civilians, according to things that I've seen. But the same thing happened after the Israel-Iran peace deal. They said, oh, it's never going to hold. And then, here we are, it held, right? So interesting. Although I think they're still trying to make it a thing. But all of this peacemaking, all of this brick by brick and walking into these rooms full of bureaucrats who couldn't do the job that Trump has just done and then calling them out doesn't get you a Nobel Peace Prize? I'm shocked. I'm absolutely shocked. The Nobel Prize Committee is announcing breaking news. The Norwegian Nobel Committee has decided to award the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize to Maria Corina Machado. Who? I don't know. Okay, sure, sounds good. For her tireless work promoting democratic rights. For the people of Venezuela. What? Okay. And for her struggle to achieve a just and peaceful transition from dictatorship to democracy. What happened to Guido? Right? I thought Guido was the pick of the globalists. Now it's this chick. She gets a peace prize. And how many Middle Easts did she bring peace to? How many conflicts did she stop this year? Election Wizard says Venezuela opposition leader Maria Corina Machado wins the 25 Nobel Peace Prize, not President Trump. Wah, wah, right? So I don't know. Here's President Trump on Obama's Peace Prize. He said he didn't even do anything. He got this award for nothing. He didn't do anything. He's a terrible president.
Way
for doing nothing.
Exactly.
Obama got a prize. He didn't even know what he got. He got elected, and they gave it to Obama for doing absolutely nothing but destroying our country. No, he was not a good president. The worst president was Sleepy Joe Biden, but Obama was not a good president.
Are you going to do something with the
They
Hezbollah?
gave him a prize. How many months after he won the election, then they gave him the Peace Prize, right?
It was right
Before he
afterwards.
was elected.
Are you going to take
My election was a much more important election.
way less?
Trump kills me. This whole 30 seconds is like, yeah, well, Obama's crap. I'm really good. Obama's crap, though. He's crap. Joe Biden's worse, but Obama's crap. Just makes me howl. Lord Thander says, Trump deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. Abraham Accords built Middle East bridges. No new wars in term one, and his Gaza ceasefire hostage deal halts horror's epic peace legacy. Right. Who's that Venezuelan lady again? What did she do? And the peace deal is receiving pushback from Canada's majority Muslim population. I mean, I say that tongue in cheek, but really, here's Leviathan and Samar al-Kudur, a Palestinian refugee living in Montreal who recently brought her entire family despite her hate of Canada. Upon hearing of a signed peace deal, Samar is calling for even more escalation and protesting Canada as long as Israel exists. This is an opinion shared by many Palestinians and protesters like her, meaning the protests won't stop until Israel is eliminated. And we saw this previously. There was when Palestinian statehood was being recognized at the UN level, Macron, Starmer, Carney, there was some concern or some hesitation by Macron, I think, in France. I think it was France that wasn't sure, and they got all sorts of riots, and I reported on it on the show. And this was in response to them hesitating to declare Palestine a state. And I think that Canada would have suffered that same blowback, and I'm interested to see if anything will come of this threat. I don't know. I don't know if this is a majority or if this is just some crazy lady. Might just be some crazy lady, right? Who knows what living in a place like Palestine or Gaza, what kind of outlook that'll give you, and why you would think coming to Canada and protesting is the thing you do. Well, I mean, it's not like we stop it, so we're not exactly deterring this behavior. She's, I think, being encouraged by a whole bunch of people to behave this way. So there you go. Pretty wild stuff. But I find it very interesting, the whole Nobel thing. You can bring peace to the Middle East, but if your name's Donald Trump, you're not getting a Nobel. Pretty wild stuff. Here is the disagreement between the Vancouver Parks Board and Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling. And I think her response to this is absolutely hilarious. So this is why I'm showing you. This is Tom, and Tom, this is actually how crazy things are. If only we knew how bad it really is. This is a park board in Vancouver.
It turns out that the original author of the Harry Potter series, J.K. Rowling, has since 2018 taken very public political positions seeking to limit the rights and opportunities of transgender, gender diverse, and two-spirit people in the UK, in Canada, in other countries. Now, I don't want to platform her ideas and her opinions, so I'm not going to describe her political views here. Let me say that in several cases, her views and her activity has impacted Vancouver and the Lower Mainland directly.
By bringing joy to children in the form of a written universe? What? Yes, that evil J.K. Rowling. Oh, talking about the other thing.
Personally, I believe those harms are clear and unmistakable. As many of you may be aware, Reynolds,
This I wasn't watching this. I was doing other things, and I came back to this tab, and I actually laughed out loud. Hello, everybody. I'm doing my best girl voice. Anyway, this is the farce that's going on in Vancouver. And J.K. Rowling says, to be honest, I didn't even know the Vancouver Parks and Recreation had avowed me, so the disavowal hasn't been much of a blow. Next time, send me a certificate of avowal. Wait until I've proudly framed it, hung it over my PC, and taken a selfie with it, and then revoke it. That's what you should do. David says, mark my words, J.K. Rowling will never recover from this. And J.K. Rowling says, I wouldn't say never, But with time, therapy, and the support of my family, I anticipate I'll be able to hear the words Vancouver Parks and Recreations without suffering a serious breakdown within 2 to 3 years. It's just funny because the whole thing is so ridiculous. This man, who's a park board guy in Vancouver, is trying to take down J.K. Rowling. And the fact that she's even trolling him is more than he deserves. Let's do our grab bag of governance. We're 10 minutes in. Okay, grab bag of governance. There's a whole bunch of crazy stuff. The 2030 agenda stuff is absolutely nuts. But there's a lot of really wild things going on here. The 2030 agenda is wild because of C2, C8, and C9, and they didn't even get a mention in the preamble. But the government is trying to pass these censorship laws, and they're trying to pass them by Christmas time, basically. And John Carpay thinks that we might be into a police state by Christmas time. I hope not. I hope not. That would be an unfortunate Christmas present. That'll put a damper on my usual Christmas series of shows leading up to Christmas. So the 2030 agenda is alive and well, and they are trying to ram it down our throats. It's very, very concerning. But there's a lot of grab bag of governance to do as well. The food professor says, what I learned from Carney's second meeting with Trump: first, dairy is clearly the main target within supply management, chicken and eggs less so. Second, it has become abundantly clear Trump wanted Carney to win the election to secure the best possible deal for Americans. Right. I don't really care about who Trump wanted to win the election. I want the obvious fact that this was a rigged election to be discussed, because this was a rigged election. And everybody's talking about, oh yeah, Carney won, blah, 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 blah. It was a rigged election. And these people are not legitimate, and they shouldn't be making deals with anybody. And they haven't really done anything other than waste our money for the first 6 months. They've given a ton of money to Ukraine. They've built some bureaucracies. They haven't done anything at all. They haven't unwound any bad bills, any bad policies. In fact, the only thing they're trying to do is censor everybody. And people don't want to talk about that. Also, when Chrystia Freeland was negotiating the USMCA, I was saying what Donald Trump wants is dairy. Open up the dairy thing. And he wants Chrystia Freeland to go away. Make Chrystia Freeland go away, open up dairy, and you'll have a deal. And nobody did that. And now, years later, like I think we're talking 6 years later, because Chrystia Freeland was traveling to negotiate in 2018, 2019, right? Before 2020, USMCA was all through the first Trump presidency being negotiated. And he hated Chrystia Freeland, and Trudeau kept sending her, and he wanted dairy, and he was clear about it. He was clear as day about it. I was talking about it, and I'm some schmo in my garage. Nobody else can see this? Obviously, food professor, right? And again, I don't give a shit. I don't care what Trump wants with regards to Carney or Polyev or anything like that. I think it's so disingenuous to like cotton on to, and I mean, not for the food professor. He's not a political opinion guy or anything like that. But a whole bunch of people talk about how much, Trump is manipulating people, and he wanted Carney, so he got Carney, and now, the Americans are getting a good deal, and so on and so forth. The whole premise of Carney lied every day of the campaign. He had cover from the media. He had cover from all sorts of different institutions, unions, et cetera, elbows up, all of this nonsense. And it was nonsense, and I called it out at the time. And it's just disingenuous to not discuss all of those falsehoods, all of this stuff that's happened, all the lies. I mean, the lies all the way back to COVID. Nothing. It's just water under the bridge. And they say, oh yeah, well, Carney said he was going to be good, and Canadians must have believed him because they elected him, and now he's not good. And oh man, we're so dumb, us Canadians. No, the election was effing well rigged. He knew what he was going to do beforehand. He didn't get parachuted into Canada to lose that election. They had a plan, and they're running the plan. And the plan is basically they're going to bankrupt us. The IMF is going to bail us out. The United Nations is going to take over, and that's how we lose our sovereignty. And I hope I'm wrong, but it looks obvious to me, and nobody's going to have a conversation about our rigged elections in that series of events, because it's a cascading series of events, right? Uh-oh, we ran out of money. Uh-oh, IMF is bailing us out. Uh-oh, can't do anything now. I guess the United Nations is in charge because we screwed things up. You screwed things up, Canada, right? They'll blame somebody. There'll be some scapegoat, but fundamentally our sovereignty will be gone, and the United Nations will administer all of our lands, and we won't have a damn ability to say anything about anything, because they'll just shut us up. And all of the censorship laws they're trying to roll out now, so they will be able to shut us up. So there's big problems with even the way we're talking about how to fix the problem, right? It's not Mark Carney and it's not Pierre Poilievre. Neither one of them is going to fix the problem. The CPC is more committed to their deal with the dairy cartel than with their deal with the people who they are supposed to represent. Bradshaw's sharing this Michael Cooper tweet or X post, and Cooper says, breaking, the Liberals vote against my motion to force Carney to turn over all of the records from his secret backroom meetings in New York and London with global investors tied to Brookfield. My motion passed despite Liberal obstruction. Now we'll learn what Carney tried to hide. So if you have the votes for that, why don't you have the votes to bring down this government? Why don't you have the votes to stop the censorship laws? Why don't you have the votes to hold these things up so they never get passed to see the light? They never see the light of day. Again, I don't see a strategy in this Conservative Party at all. I don't see an overarching strategy of derailing the Carney censorship train. And that is, I said it before, and when they came into office, I was kind of surprised that censorship laws weren't first things passed through. But I think they were seeding the ground. They were building the foundation, and now they're really going hog wild on it. And I hope we're able to get out of this. Juno News is reporting Prime Minister Carney has appointed former colleague Doug Guzman, a longtime Bay Street executive and former Royal Bank of Canada deputy chair, as chief executive officer of the new Defence Investment Agency. The post comes with a salary of up to $679,100 per year. $679,000, more than $500,000 a year. Even just if you took off $500,000, he'd still have a good salary at $179,000 per year. Right? Like, that's a lot of money. Most people don't make that much money. Right? So that's how you pay somebody for supporting you through your prime ministerial run, monetarily or with activity or anything like that, right? There's all sorts of, and it looks like cronyism. Cronyism is giving insiders a plum position or something like that. Like, you guys were buddies, he was your roommate in college, and you guys were both working on, politics, and now you're the leader of the party, and you can send people to ambassadorships, and you can have Germany. That's a nice one. You can have a new apartment in Washington D.C. in Millionaires Row, Tom, right? Like, so it's pretty wild stuff. Looks like that. Right? It looks like that. So here's a plum job that you don't really have to do anything. Just listen to us and implement what we tell you. Don't worry, your assistants will do most of it. You just have to be the signature. There you go. And they'll have an auto pen. CBC Watcher is responding to the Toronto Sun. Is Carney ready to surrender Canada's auto industry? Do we want to surrender Canada's auto industry? Probably not. Here's the quote from the article. Then you add in what Trump's Commerce Secretary Lutnick said while appearing at a conference in Toronto on Wednesday, and things become more worrisome. Lutnick's comments were made behind closed doors under Chatham House rules, meaning no one is supposed to discuss them, but clearly several people who were so alarmed that they were willing to break the rules to say what Lutnick was telling the audience. Car assembly is going to be in America, and there's nothing Canada can do about it, a source quoted Lutnick as saying. According to the source, Lutnick also said that Canada will be disappointed with where we will end up compared to where we are now with regards to autos, but that we could benefit elsewhere. Yeah, I'm sure we could benefit elsewhere, or maybe nothing at all. Maybe we'll get nothing at all. Here is Champagne, and people are saying, hey, there are a lot of workers who rely on these jobs. What do you say to them? And Champagne has more word salad nonsense instead of an actual solid answer.
Mr. Lutnick's comments, is the auto sector able to survive without free trade with the U.S.?
Listen, what I can say is that we've been fighting, as you know, for the auto sector, for the workers. It's a great industry in our nation. I see ourselves, when I say that, Canada and the U.S. more as complementary than in real competition, because the fact that we have integrated supply chain, and I would say that goes back for decades, is what really makes our products more innovative, more competitive, and I think that's something which is positive on both sides of the border.
But he's saying the U.S. first now, Canada second. That's Mr. Lutnick's position.
Listen, I heard this comment, but I can say from a Canadian perspective, and I've been spending quite some time with the auto sector, is really when you look at the integrated nature of our production, when you look at the auto parts, when you're looking at aluminum, when you look at the essential things that you need to build the cars of the 21st century. Think about the battery ecosystem, for example. Everything you need to make the cars of today and tomorrow is the fact that we're integrated, and I think this is what makes North America very competitive. This is the economic bloc where we have brought innovation, competitiveness, and I think by that kind of approach that we have had for decades is what has made the cars that we make here in North America.
So it's I just think he's pivoting away from actually actually addressing the question. And he's saying, oh yeah, no, it's really super good. And like, it's going to be great. And we're going to fight for them. And, the conservatives don't fight. And it's BS. Like it is not correct. They're selling a product, but it's empty, right? You get the box home and you realize it's just a rock to weight it down. Here is City News reporting the Canadian Union of Postal Workers says they will shift from a nationwide strike to rotating strikes. You need to lock them out, and you need to abolish and end or maybe sell the Canada Post. That's definitely what needs to happen. This is ridiculous. They're wasting billions of dollars and they want to raise. Like the company is not able to be to fund itself. It's not functional. How, in what way would somebody be able to give more money if you don't make any more money, right? We want a 10% raise. Well, our revenues we're in the negative billions. Like, you want to raise? Get real. The company is going to go bankrupt, you lunatics. So I don't know why they're still doing this whole thing. They're going to protest themselves out of a job, I think, personally. And that's like not great for them or for anybody, because they're destroying one of the Canadian institutions. And so that's not great, right? Doug Ford says to the mayors asking the government to continue to allow cash grab speed cameras in Ontario, I've been absolutely clear. The answer is no. And so here's Doug Ford's letter. I'll just read the top little bit. It says, Dear Mayor Brown and Mayor Mead Ward, I'm writing in response to your letter requesting the continued use of municipal speed cameras in Ontario. The answer is no. Our government is banning this municipal cash grab once and for all. In its place, we are installing proven and proactive safety measures that are 100% effective at slowing drivers down, including roundabouts, speed bumps, improved signage, and other traffic calming measures in school zones. The only thing municipal speed cameras are 100% effective at is taking money from hardworking people. Just 37 mayors and municipalities have allowed and encouraged the use of speed cameras over the last several years to explode as they look for new ways to take hard-earned money from people, while 407 mayors and municipalities have put the interests of taxpayers, 407 mayors have put the and municipalities have put the interests of taxpayers first by not putting the cameras in or taking them out. The numbers speak for themselves. So there you go. And he goes on. It's a long letter, but fundamentally the answer is no speed cameras in Ontario. So that's okay. I like that. I don't like the speed cameras because I feel that they are certainly just a cash grab and it is inappropriate. And they were going to put those things everywhere. They were going to get like wide adoption of 40-kilometer-an-hour zones, even having just a single line of cars. I was on an 80-kilometer road last night, Highway 7, and somebody was going 60 kilometers an hour, and the whole line of cars was just following this person. And there was way too many cars for me to pass safely. I couldn't do it. And so I just had to suffer. And we drove all the way between two cities, like between Rockwood and Guelph, 60 kilometers an hour. I was like, the guy behind me was losing it more than I was losing it, but I was like, this is ridiculous. And we have trained people to virtue signal with slow driving, and it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Intolerable. All right, with that, we're going to end the stream. There's a whole bunch more show. If you want the rest of the show, head over to CanadaPoly.com. But if not, that's okay. We'll catch you tomorrow. And I believe that we're going to have a kitchen table talk on Sunday, usual time, 1 o'clock. I hope so. I'm going to send out the email to confirm it, but that is my plan right now. And I don't think, you know what? We're doing no, we're not. It's Monday we're doing it. So yeah, I've got the time. So hopefully we'll see you on Sunday. And we will see you tomorrow. Anyway, moving on. End the stream, and we'll move on here. And we will. Here is the leader of the bloc talking about how Carney has failed with his U.S. trade deal, and Bruce McGonigal is speculating, but I think that there's some kind of valid, I think that you could back this up. He says the Bloc Québécois are laying out their arguments for Quebec separation in 2026 in two parts. Part one, they can cut a better trade deal with the United States. Part two, the Canadian government is trying to destroy provincial rights in Canada. They're right. I can't believe there isn't an Ontario Separatist Party. Anybody want to start an Ontario Separatist Party? Because I'm done with this crap. Like, I don't want my tax dollars going to China-controlled federal government and Ukraine. Like, period. I just don't want that. So we need an Ontario Separatist Party that's going to tell Ottawa to pound sand. Like, I'm not interested in this nonsense anymore. Quebec leaving Canada, Alberta leaving Canada will trigger Canada to collapse. I think will trigger Canada to fall into looking maybe like Europe, a whole bunch of regional states. I don't think it'll be Canada and Alberta if that happens. It'll be Quebec, Alberta, maybe Ontario, probably BC. Maybe Alberta will just like take on Manitoba and Saskatchewan, but I'm not sure. Maybe Ontario will take on Manitoba. I don't know. Geographically, how it'll work out. Like Manitoba's more like Saskatchewan than they're more than like Ontario. I think. No offense, Manitobans, right? But it's one of those things. So I don't know how it'll look, but if the federal government doesn't stop effing around, they might just find out. And I hope I'm here for it with popcorn, because they are destroying what Canada was. Destroying, maybe already completely destroyed. Here's this guy, CTV News. He's talking about Alberta, I think, but this is true in Guelph. I was talking to Payman. He says this is true, or he's seeing similar issues out in Vancouver and like out on the West Coast. And so it's crazy. It's crazy. Here's this guy.
Downtown, and tears come to my eyes to see what a disaster it's become. You can't get downtown. Every road is blocked. You know, our city's losing its identity. The city seems like it's falling apart, and it's very, very frustrating. I talk to people constantly, I'm not going downtown. I'm not going to go there. I don't want to do this. It's too dangerous. I was talking to a fella not 20 minutes ago about taking his kids to the hockey game, and he said he got on the LRT and there was needles on the floor. I mean, we have to start being much more aggressive in cleaning up the city of Edmonton to make it attractive so people come and invest here and want to build a life here. And I know people around the suburbs say, well, who cares about downtown? But downtown is the vitality of the city. It's not the sidewalks of the suburbs. And it's very frustrating to see the lack of focus, the lack of vision for downtown. I go downtown and I'm just...
Same thing in Toronto, same thing in Guelph, right? It's a nightmare out there, and it's not getting better, and the people who are supposed to be making it better are not. Randy Hillier says Canada's version of the AIPAC, I think I don't know, is the CJPAC, Canadian Jewish Political Action. Although they're not as well known, they function and operate the same. Many Canadian politicians find the allure of a big pot of Jewish donation money very seductive and intoxicating. Any big pot of money is very intoxicating, right? People call you up and say they want to donate to your campaign, and then you play all nice and you go and you do the thing that they want you to do. Nah, man, nope. I went to one CJPAC reception during my 15 years in office, and that was enough for me to never go back. I preferred hosting barbecues and raising my campaign funds from people in my community. And so here, this guy and Matt Gates is describing going to a fundraiser where they scanned him and donated right there.
Initially, I resented the fact that there was no appreciation for nuance. Like if you asked any questions about any decision of the Israeli government in any place regarding settlements, regarding Gaza, whatever, you were like, you had deviated from the script. And in any policy area, I had resentment over that. And then I saw the way the APAC worked, and that was weird for like a country lawyer like me. I remember my first APAC reception, and like your fundraiser tells you have to go, and your chief of staff tells you have to go, your committee chairman all tell you have to go, and you get there and you wear this name badge, and I remember there's a QR code on it. And what we were supposed to do was go talk to donors, and then if they liked you, they scanned your QR code to make a donation, like on the spot. And so can you just imagine how demoralizing that is to like be told that your job for the next several hours to go chat people up, hoping they would scan you like a can of tomato soup on the way out of the meeting.
I mean, it's literally purchasing.
Right. And so I saw that and I was like, wow, that is so freaking weird.
I'm on the menu? You're kidding. Jeepers creepers, right? Western Standard says report finds Calgary property tax increases highest in Canada. Shocking. Right? Everybody's being taxed out of house and home, and that's on purpose. Mark says Alberta NDP just got caught sharing anti-pipeline videos, siding with BC to landlock the province and kill a new pipeline. This after Nenshi claimed he's the only leader in Alberta who can get a pipeline built. You're kidding, right? Nobody's going to fall for that. Nobody's going to believe that Nenshi and the NDP are going to build any pipelines, right? NDP are cheering for the people blocking pipelines. Whew. I'm not surprised. The NDP are not people who want prosperity in Canada. They want a magic government that can print money to just hand out money to anybody who wants money, because they don't understand how the economy works, I think, fundamentally. Here is 13 seconds of Nenshi. Hold on, this is the NDP caught sharing anti-pipeline videos.
Fictional Alberta bitumen pipeline project achieves literally none of these things. Doesn't have First Nations consent. Makes no financial or economic sense. It has no private proponent, no route, no private funding, and with fiction.
So if you're sharing these videos, do you think that they're going to build pipelines? And also, Vasi Kapoulas held EB accountable because he was spreading mistruths about what Danielle Smith's plan was. And he is and was. And so is this appropriate? Like, is it appropriate for Nenshi to platform these mistruths that Danielle Smith is trying to correct, right? And so on one side, people say, oh, misinformation, disinformation. And on the other side, they're more guilty of it, I think, than the right. The left is more guilty. Here is Ryan Garrettson, and he says, watch this and tell me Canada is on its way to becoming an energy superpower. A phosphate mine, a carbon capture facility, some LNG exports. Is this guy serious? Unfortunately, he is. This is why we're doomed. This is not a list of projects that is going to turn Canada into an energy superpower by any stretch of the imagination.
You to come with me on some of the trips I've been on in the last few weeks. I was in Gaspésie this past weekend, where there's a multi-billion-dollar new smelter being built, and where we just provided funds for 2 new phosphate mines in Quebec. I was recently in Strathcona, where they're building a multi-billion-dollar carbon capture and storage, one of the world's largest. I was recently in Squamish, where the Squamish Nation is building a multi-billion-dollar export facility. I was recently in Kitimat, where they just finished a multi-billion-dollar aluminum project. They've just started up, and we're shipping the first Canadian LNG to international markets, and we're in discussions about doubling the size of that, making it the second largest LNG facility in the world. And we just greenlight the Silicium project. So I would respectfully say that Canada is building right now.
Minister, your trips are all nice and dandy, and that perspective is very interesting. But the truth of the matter is the stats don't lie. International foreign investment is flooding to the United States compared to Canada, and our foreign investment in this country is at the lowest level it's been in over a decade. These are the facts, Minister. You promised to make Canada an energy superpower capable of standing up to the Americans, and now you're considering reviving the Keystone XL pipeline, not because Canadians asked for it, but because Donald Trump asked for it. Is this the Liberal vision of strong sovereignty, to promise to stand up to Americans, only to end up obeying Donald Trump?
Monsieur le Ministre.
Again, respectfully, I would...
Scary stuff. Absolutely terrifying that they want to go in this direction. Here is Nicholas. He says, breaking bird flu mass culling resumes after summer pause. 4 million birds exterminated in the past month. This is in the United States. It's the same problem as what's going on in Canada with the ostriches, and nobody really wants to discuss that core of the issue, in that the response to a sick flock, the response to a sick birds is, I can't pause it, is to kill the whole group of birds, right? And so that's pretty scary stuff. And I don't think that we understand the impacts of that. A lot of people are saying they're going to extrapolate this out to people. Like, if you're in a house that's contaminated with the illness that they claim, then they'll kill you. After COVID, plausible, but I don't want to say one way or the other. Is it believable? Like, if somebody told me it was happening, I wouldn't discount it. I'd ask for proof, and I would certainly investigate in a serious way. So that's pretty wild. America plunges back into the cycle of fear, failure, slaughter, and supply chain chaos. During the summer, mass culling of poultry for H5N1 bird flu came to a complete halt after over 44 million birds were recklessly exterminated from January to May 2025. All of this has contributed to the mass culling cycle of devastation, with H5N1 widespread in much migratory waterfowl farms continue to face reinfection despite repeated culling. Thus, chickens never develop herd immunity, leading to a never-ending cycle of food supply chain disruption and chicken-to-human transmission. Chicken-to-human transmission? I can't get sick from a chicken. I can't get sick from eating a chicken with flu. If you've got the flu, is that in your muscles? I don't think so. I'm not eating the lungs, man. Now, mass culling for bird flu is back on the menu. Since September, over 4 million birds have been culled and over a single pooled H5N1 detections on farms. The birds are culled using barbaric methods such as ventilation shutdown and foam suffocation. At the current trajectory, it's expected that mass culling will continue to ramp up as we head towards the winter months. This will result in destabilized food supply chain, skyrocketing egg prices, chicken-to-human transmission, and prolonging of the crisis. This also opens a window of opportunity for the vaccine cartel to roll out their long-awaited leaky bird flu vaccines. And then he's actually responding to himself, saying they're putting out the H5N1 vaccines, and these leaky bird flu could contaminate our food supply. I would be more inclined to eat a chicken that had the flu than was injected with whatever this is, right? Like I don't want that, or exposed to whatever they're exposing these baby chickens to. Let's talk about, we're going to do the 2030 agenda and then we'll do crime. Although maybe crime was supposed to lead into the 2030 agenda. I just feel like I want to get to it first because it's important. Here is Gen Xer, and he says, not what I want for Christmas. Here is John Carpe talking about a police state and the potential for that. Here we go.
Canada will be a police state.
That was too fast. It has been one day since the last incident of too fast talking. Here we go.
Canada will be a police state by Christmas if Parliament passes bills C2, C8, and C9 in their current form. C2 is the Strong Borders Act. It should be called the Strong Surveillance Act. It empowers Canada Post to open letter mail without a warrant. It criminalizes the use of cash in amounts greater than 10,000. And it empowers a vast army of government officials, not just police, to conduct warrantless searches of the computers and cell phones of Canadians. It is a massive invasion of privacy. It's extremely dangerous. There have been warnings that the Online Harms Act, which prior to the last election was known as Bill C-63, might be reintroduced. If the Online Harms Act is brought back and passed into law, you're going to see the Canadian Human Rights Commission with massive new powers to prosecute Canadians over offensive non-criminal speech with penalties up to $50,000. You're going to see a Digital Safety Commission with a vast army of bureaucrats to enforce federal regulations that are passed in respect of the internet and internet contents. And you're going to see Canadians punished preemptively because their neighbor fears that they might commit a hate speech crime in future. The Online Harms Act would authorize judges to place Canadians under house arrest and wear an ankle bracelet in respect to curfew, etc. Giving the federal government, giving federal cabinet ministers power to kick Canadians off the internet is not necessary for protecting public safety or defending our national security. Our freedoms are fragile. It's imperative that every Canadian contact their member of parliament, whether your MP is Liberal, Conservative, NDP, Bloc, or Green, does not matter. Contact your member of parliament and tell him or her to vote against bills C2, C8, C9, and tell them to not bring back the Online Harms Act. I'm John Carpe. Thanks for listening.
Okay, and there's one other one I wanted to talk about. This is Roman Baber talking about C2. This is them talking about C9. Roman Baber's talking about going into committee to talk about C9 today, and I've got video of that committee. Just came across my desk. It's what I put on here before. Here we go.
I don't understand why this Liberal government is so obsessed at attacking our civil liberties. It's Roman Baber from the Confederation Building Cafeteria. The West Block is behind me. I'm still feeling pretty good about the fact that they had to withdraw C2 because Conservatives successfully blocked their attempt to open our mail and snoop on our internet activity without a warrant.
They split the bill. They reintroduced it as C12, and they're going to try and ram it through.
But today we're going to be dealing with C9. The Attorney General is coming to our committee, the Justice Committee, where I'm going to try and understand why the Liberals are trying to change the hate speech framework in our country. They're diluting the definition of hatred as articulated by the Supreme Court. They're removing Attorney General consent, which will allow for a wild west of private litigants instituting private informations against their political opponents. They're creating this new standalone hate offense that can be tacked onto any civil offense. So non-payment of wages under the Canada Labour Code may now be attracting criminal proceedings. We are going to continue on our gains and block them. I couldn't think of anything more worthwhile to do than to participate in the proceeding today. We'll talk at night. Thank you.
So there you go. So the Roman Babber's talking about that. And here is Ryan. He says, Sean Fraser admits Bill C9 will apply to online posts. Just look how he is even responding to the questions. Stuttering and stammering. Welcome to 1984. And so here is part of this. Here we go.
With us today.
It's a 5 minute long. It's a 5 minute long video, so we're just going to listen to the first minute. I have not listened to this yet. This, as I said, I just added this to the list of links that we're looking at because it came across my desk as I was doing the show. So I haven't listened to this, but again, it's 5 minutes. We'll listen to the first minute.
For being with us today. C9 makes reference specifically with hate symbols to public spaces. Just to confirm, does that include the internet?
Generally speaking, the law will apply equally online as it does in real communities.
So this bill will affect what people can say and write on the internet?
Just in the limited circumstances where there is the willful promotion of hatred against
It will apply
someone.
to the internet. The internet is within the jurisdiction of...
It would be possible that someone could commit a hate crime on the internet, certainly.
So, building off of Mr. Babber's points about the lower threshold for the definition of speech, there is, under this law, assuming Bill C9 passes, something that might not be legal to say today on the internet. Or it might be legal to say on the internet, could actually be illegal in the future under C9, could it not?
No, that's entirely inaccurate, and I say that with no judgment to your perspective, but let me explain. The only circumstance where you could imagine some online comment attracting scrutiny under this law would attach to behavior that is criminal today but would be punished less severely. The symbols piece that you pointed to, for example, is attached only to the willful promotion of hate. This is not a blanket symbols ban. The willful promotion of hate is a crime today, but we want to recognize a distinct charge where that same behavior uses certain symbols of hate to bring a higher degree of culpability. So there is no new human behavior that would attract the scrutiny.
I understand, but I'm building off of the discussion earlier on the definition. Is your view that the change in wording, and there was a change in wording, you made a deliberate decision to change the definition that was spelled out in Keekstra and reaffirmed in Watcott. Is your view that your definition in C9 will not capture anything beyond what is currently captured right now by the hate definition?
The definition was an attempt to codify, and the reason that there was a...
This is a yes or no question, Minister. Is there at all a lower threshold or a broader net on hate in Canada after C9 if it passes?
My view on the definition question, because the offences I would give a different answer to you for, but on the definition, my view is that it codifies the same behaviour that is there today, and it was meant to provide clearer guidance to law enforcement in the criminal code to apply the existing standard that has been recognised by the Supreme Court.
Because the same arguments that are being used by you and your government to push Bill C9 to protect people against hate, which on the surface sounds incredibly noble, but these arguments are the same arguments that have led to the United Kingdom having police literally knocking on people's doors over their tweets. So what guarantee can you give Canadians that we are not headed down that very road, especially in the context of other priority areas identified by you and your government, such as the Online Harms Act, which was introduced twice, actually, in the last two parliaments?
This legislation is not identical in kind to the reforms that have been put in place in the UK, and we've actually looked at their experience and see that there are real challenges with how it's played out. For example, we've got a different approach where some jurisdictions around the world have adopted a more blanket glorification that could attract the scrutiny of a...
Okay, we'll leave it there. He's talking a lot but not saying a lot. So I'm concerned the same way Andrew Lawton is concerned, and I think that they are definitely trying to chill speech in the same way. Michael O'Keefe says, breaking, the Irish government has informed the EU that they will not comply with the demand to force hate speech laws on the public. Hugely significant moment for free speech. We cannot let them pass this crap. And if they pass it, we have to repeal it. Like, this is a huge problem. The hate speech is incompatible with freedom of expression, because you might say something and somebody who that accurately describes might take offense, but you might be saying something truthful, but they'll say that truthful thing that you're saying is hate speech. And that's intolerable. We cannot do this. If we allow this, our children will be prisons. They will not be prisons. They will be prisoners in our own country, right? Prisoners to an overclass that can deem anything they say as hateful. So no, we have to say no. We have to say no. The food professor says not only are Canadian beef prices inexplicable, but Australian beef sold in Canada is actually cheaper than the same beef sold in Australia. Something doesn't add up, and Ottawa needs to pay attention. I agree. Here's the food professor talking about this.
But I spoke to a few people in Australia, and they actually saw that Canadian or Australian beef in.
Oh no, sorry.
I spoke to a few people in Australia, and they actually saw that Canadian or Australian beef in Canada is actually cheaper than Australian beef in Australia, which really it's a bit of a head scratcher, because you do wonder about two things. One, is there something going on with our own beef supply chain? And I'm pointing my finger at Cargill and GBS in particular, because it's easy to understand exactly how much money farmers will be making. You can guess how much grocers are making, but that black box in the middle, occupied by GBS and Cargill in Canada, it's hard to know exactly what's going on with margins. We know that Biden, before Trump, went after beef packers, and a few of them actually wrote checks to Washington to make sure that things do quiet down. So there either something is going on.
Something's going on. Something is going on.
But
right, so weird. This is all 2030 agenda because they're trying to get rid of meat. This is another 2030 agenda thing. These guys are in a Toyota, 2025 Toyota. Do you have an auto start? If you upgrade to a 2025 Toyota, that's a monthly subscription charge. Do you want to use your audio from your phone? Monthly subscription charge. No word of a lie. Here you go.
Yo, we're in a Toyota 2025, and we noticed that on the screen, you can't use navigation unless you pay a subscription fee for it, right? Which is insane. Like, you can't just hook your phone up and use navigation on your phone. That's free. So we looked at the subscription fees, and it's $15 a month. It's also $15 a month to stream music to the actual screen in your car. Okay, together it's $25 a month. Then I also saw somebody on a forum say it's $8 a month to be able to see your oil level and your tire pressure. Bruh, look at this.
Hey, man.
What? Kind of.
Right? So there you go. It's they're trying to make this whole monetize. The car is supposed to be an asset that Toyota lets you use and can farm you for more money as you use the car, right? So you want these radio stations? Well, that's going to be a little bit of a price, $5 a month. Disclosed TV says Canterbury Cathedrals unveils, quote, Hear Us, a graffiti art installation focusing on partnering with marginalized communities such as Punjabi, Black and Brown diaspora, neurodivergent, and LGBTQIA groups. That's not going to create very good art, right? Like, why would you, if these people are tagging in public places, that means nobody wants to see their art. Why would you put it inside of a church? Like, community service is getting rid of the graffiti that idiots post all over the place, right? This is not something that you want in your church. The church is not the church anymore. It's promoting globalist communism. Okay, that's what it's promoting, unfortunately. Here's another one. The Daily Mail says children will be able to choose their own gender at any age under EU proposals. And James says this is fundamentally messed up on so many different levels. Yep, sure is. Disclosed TV says EU releases LGBTIQ plus equality strategy 26 to 30, encouraging self-determined gender, quote, free from age restrictions, and exploring new legalization or legislation under Article 83.1 to create an EU definition for hate offenses committed online. So there you go. They're all going after the online space. How dare you say things that they don't agree with? That's a hate speech, don't you know? And Ben Backus, there's so many people, like, I don't say anything hateful. I try and say things that are true, and the truth will not protect you, apparently. They don't care if it's true or not. They just care if it violates or if it goes along with their narrative or not. And true, doesn't matter, right? But there are a whole bunch of people who I talked to, Greg, the Dominion Society, the Ben Bankus, all of these people who are not on the edge, but like the Canadian government's going to go after these people. And I mean, they might just go after me, right? They probably will. I'm already censored. I'm sure I'm on lists and things like that. And so I'm not saying hateful things. I'm just poking my finger in the eye of their narrative, and they want me to stop, and they're going to make me stop using hate speech legislation. And they say, for your safety, comrade, but it's bullshit. And if you say, listen, like residential schools doesn't have any proof, that's true. But they don't like that, right? If you say that man can't be a woman, it's true. But they don't like that, right? If you say this government is full of traitors, it's true, but they don't like that, right? So they don't like me. And so, but I don't care, right? And I figured out how to get around their crap and put together a show and deliver it to customers who are interested in watching it. And they want it still. This is still not enough for them, right? The control that they have is still not enough. It's unbelievable. I keep dropping my pen. Anyway, Ben Bankus is being targeted before all this censorship nonsense, but wait till after, right? It's going to be terrible. Juno News says a Calgary casino canceled a performance by Toronto comedian Ben Bankus after receiving 2 complaints about jokes he made regarding residential schools. That's the new lie you cannot question, right? You're not allowed to question this lie. If you question this lie, you are undone. Everybody will say you're crazy or whatever. Lion Advocacy says, let's talk about crime and compare crime to what to the Tamara Lich and Chris Barber sentencing and things like that. And I've got some other updates about that. Lion Advocacy is responding to this sentence. He says, for a violent rape in British Columbia, the Crown asked for 28 months jail for the offender. For a peaceful demonstration leading to a spurious conviction for mischief, the Crown asked for 7 or 8 years. This is the new Canada under Liberal leadership, right? Crush them. And Andrew Lawton says, I'm glad Tamara Lich and Chris Barber aren't going back to jail. The judge was right to reject the ridiculous push from the Crown for 8-year prison sentences. But even after the 3 years and 7 months this prosecution has dragged on, it isn't over. The Crown is still trying to seize Chris's truck, which will cost $300,000 to replace. Going after someone's livelihood is the very definition of vindictive. It sure is, right? Right Blends reporting Tamara Lich is appealing both her conviction and the sentence per the Democracy Fund, who is supporting her legal efforts. This isn't over, not even close. The Crown appeal is also sure to come. The sentence is a disproportionate and unfit disgrace to Canada's justice system. Canada's justice system is a disgrace and it's unfit for purpose. All of these people should be thrown out of their jobs, and we should have public tribunals and no judges, because the judges are corrupt. They're corrupt. And a Supreme Court, I don't know how to do a Supreme Court, but we could do a Supreme Court. I think it would have to be like not cyclical, like you come back every so often. No, like people get sent out, like you have a docket of 7 cases. These are really, really important cases. I don't know how you would choose which group of people, like citizen-wise, would be the people to decide this, but they'd have to be like unrelated. They'd have to have no other conflict of interest. Conflicts would have to be declared. There would be no workaround. Like if you had a conflict, then you're removed. No like shield or anything like that, right? If you're conflicted, like our prime minister is, removed, right? Totally. And so like there's a way to do it that makes justice blind, I think, and that's more important than having prestigious judges. The office is prestigious, but these people are incompetent morons, right? Like put on the robes and suddenly you're honorable. Give me a break. I don't believe it. Like, no. So we need to fix our justice system, because the people who have inhabited the robes of our justice system for the last, 25 years, 50 years, more, have sullied it. They have compromised it. They've wiped their asses with their robes. And now it stinks because of them, because of their behavior. Ridiculous. And that's all. Every person on that bench, the Supreme Court of Canada bench, who said, "Oh yeah, I'm vaccinated now," and all the rest of these justices who allowed everything that's happened since COVID, they've betrayed Canada. And they should feel shameful what they've done. Cosman says the RCMP have publicly released its Freedom Convoy internal review, and it's damning for the Liberals. Officers complained of heavy political pressure, ministers manipulating intelligence for their own ends, and discomfort over the Emergencies Act. It was illegal. Those people who illegally invoked the Emergencies Act and ruined people's lives and had police come in and be violent with people, they should be held accountable. They shouldn't be able to smear Freedom Convoy people who've been dealing with this lawfare for years. It's ridiculous. And I'm glad that the judge was more lenient than 10 years in jail, but she shouldn't have given them anything. She should have recognized the farce that this whole system is, and she should have maybe stood up for the citizens that she's supposed to serve. So I don't know. The whole thing is very ridiculous, disappointing. Here is Sean, and he says, the Antifa militant who attacked us inside the church with a smoke bomb is being investigated by Parliament. Unfortunately, I don't remember when the hacker, like, he got his comeuppance because I think that he got thrown into an American jail because he's a hacker, and I guess he's an idiot hacker. But the guy who hacked the GoFundMe for the truckers and released the links, nothing was ever done to him through Canadian courts or anything like that. Nobody cared. But like, you can't do that. But the media printed it, the government acted on it, all sorts of crazy. Like, the government used that list to freeze bank accounts of people who donated to the truckers. Just unbelievable stuff, right? So I am shocked, absolutely shocked that people think that this is going to have any kind of resolution. It's not. They're going to say, oh yeah, we're investigating it. If there's an update on this, I'll eat my hat.
There have been allegations made that there was an Antifa member who threw smoke bombs into a church service in Montreal this past summer. The allegations are that they're a government employee that work on a military base outside of Montreal. Are you aware of these allegations, and are they being investigated?
Allegations such as that are investigated by the police of jurisdiction, so that in this case it would be the City of Montreal Police.
Considering that this is a potential terrorism case, does this concern you? Are you at all concerned about potentially a government employee being a member of an organization like Antifa and committing a crime like throwing smoke bombs in a church service?
I'm concerned at every incidence of hate at any place, including churches, and certainly if the allegation involves government employees, that makes me more concerned.
They're not concerned. They won't do anything. They haven't done anything, and they won't. And I wish it weren't so, but man, it is. Here's Larry Brock. He says a truck driver accused of killing a mother and daughter was granted bail after allegedly being released once, fleeing the country, then getting arrested again. This is outrageous. Canadians deserve justice, not repeat chances for others. It's time for jail, not bail. The Conservative government is, I'll say it one more time, more committed to its dairy cartel than it is to the citizens it claims to represent. And until that effing well changes, then we're not going to get anywhere, unfortunately. And Larry Brock knows it. So all of this is lip service, right? It doesn't actually, there's no strategy here. I don't see a strategy to stop the censoring of the internet. I don't see a strategy to stop the institutional rot from justice to policing to everything else. There's no way to stop the government from sending money to Ukraine, and it doesn't look like the Conservatives want to. They don't represent us. I can't come to another conclusion, right? They pretend to, but this is just like what Jagmeet Singh would do. Oh, we're gonna hold the Liberals accountable this time. Sure aren't. Here is a street preacher, I think. He goes to university campuses and talks to kids about things that they don't want to talk about. And Chris says, this is the world we're currently living in, where a preacher has to buy body armor just to share the truth. Tribe and train, folks. Always be alert. Yeah, man. You've got to have, if you're out in public, be aware of what's going on around you, because like things have changed in our country, unfortunately. And I wish it wasn't the case, but sure seems to be. Here is Sean. He says, this is gun laws and things like that. Safety Minister Gary says that taking 1,200 guns from retailers made streets safer. And they ask how many criminals turned in their guns. And that question doesn't get answered. But criminals won't be turning in their guns. Like, there's no way that returning 1,200 guns to the government has made the streets safer. All of the policies of allowing violent criminals out of jail has made the streets much less safe. And so that's on the government. These policies do nothing to counteract the bad policies of allowing violent criminals out on bail again and again and again. And so it's a false thing. They're trying to claim that they're providing safety when they're absolutely not. And so it's pretty interesting what's going on with this. I'm also interested in how many people have complied in Nova Scotia with the gun buyback. If there's been any kind of uptake, if there's been 1,000 people, I don't know. I don't even know what to expect. I don't know if they're going to have a huge, if they're going to have a lot of people respond, or if they're going to pretend that like they had a lot of people respond. Are they going to start arresting people for having prohibited weapons? We'll see. We will see. Danielle Smith, let's talk about Alberta very briefly. She says a new national poll shows a clear majority of Canadians and British Columbians support a new Alberta pipeline to the North BC coast. I don't think I'd be wasting my time. I would be brokering a deal with Donald Trump right now to get Canadian oil and gas from Alberta to a shoreline somewhere to sell it to Germany or whoever wants it. I would not be landlocking myself and appealing. I don't think Angus Reid, I don't trust Angus Reid. Angus Reid is just a liar, right? I don't think that they have 1,000 people that they ask these questions of, and then they make these headlines. And again, I don't think it's representative. I don't think it's honest. And so using this as a bargaining chip, there was a time where this worked, and now it doesn't, because it's bullshit, because this stuff is basically based on bullshit. And I don't believe it. And so I think that Danielle Smith could be doing something, just like I think Poilievre could be doing something, like trying to make overtures to the NDP. Like, this is what we want to do. This is what we want to accomplish. This is what we'll give you if you support our plan. But that doesn't seem to be happening. I mean, maybe it is in the background, but I don't see any indication that there are overtures to try and bring this government down. The Conservatives seem to be looking at filibustering or blocking or getting the government to split these bills. Again, they were successful last time. Under Poilievre, they were successful last time. They filibustered successfully with the support of the NDP. So we'll see. But I don't know. I certainly, I don't feel like this is a foregone conclusion. I feel like these things are going to get passed. Benny, let's talk about the United States and then we're done. Man, we're long today. Benny says, President Trump delivers pure nightmare fuel for the left amidst the government shutdown. He says, we're going to shut down Democrat programs. All those stupid Democrat programs that nobody likes, we're going to shut them down.
And we'll be making cuts that will be permanent. And we're only going to cut Democrat programs. I hate to tell you. I guess that makes sense. But we're only cutting Democrat programs. But we're going to start that. And we have Russell, we can talk to you about it if he wants to, but we'll be cutting some very popular Democrat programs that aren't popular with Republicans, frankly, because that's the way it works. They wanted to do this, so we'll give them a little taste of their own medicine. And we'll be making cuts that will be permanent.
There you go. Permanent cuts, because the government's shut down and Trump can do whatever he wants. So that's pretty interesting. Here is this, and Wall Street Ape says the Pacific Palisades fire was just proven to be a rekindled fire from days before. That means Government Newsom didn't follow protocol and is criminally negligent. Spencer Pratt says our lawyers months ago told the court what caused the Palisades fire, and today the Department of Justice has proven us right. It was a rekindling of the New Year's Eve Lachman fire, and it wasn't put out properly by the LA City fire. The city left it to burn, and the state left it to burn for nearly a week on their property. They're now on the hook for the dangerous condition that led to the destruction of my town. Told you, the best part is now finally we get to access the ATF report. I told you justice was coming. This is just the beginning. So the Palisades fire might be happening here. This is Trump and RFK Jr., and this made me laugh out loud because I don't think so. And I saw somebody else say, this is just not true. But they're saying circumcised babies. I'll let them say it. Here, I was like, no.
There's also there's many other confirmation studies. There's 2 studies that show children who are circumcised early have double the rate of autism. It's highly likely because they're given Tylenol. So, none of this is this positive, but all of it is stuff that we should be paying attention to.
So what does circumcised early mean? A lot of kids are circumcised at birth, 5 minutes before, because they're given Tylenol. So all of the kids who are circumcised at birth in the United States are given Tylenol? Is that driving autism? And I just thought, man, and listen to what Trump says. I've read a lot about this. I'm not a medical person. I'm not a medical expert. I'm just an expert. I don't think he says he's an expert, but hold on. It's funny.
Yeah. But, there's a tremendous amount of proof or evidence, I would say, as a non-doctor, but I've studied this a long time ago. I met Bob.
As a non-doctor, I've studied this as a non-doctor. It just made me laugh. I was like, man, Just stop talking sometimes. Here's car dealership guy. He says 40% of 70,000 active tricolor loans were allegedly promised to multiple creditors, and federal investigators are now probing for potential VIN fabrications or duplicate pledges to inflate the value of Tricolor's portfolio, leaving the asset-backed security holders who have shelled out more than $2 billion to Tricolor in the last 2 years frantically looking for clarity. Talk about a house of cards. So basically what's happened is Tricolor thought that these were secured loans, secured with a car, but they weren't secured loans. Multiple loans were stacked on top of single cars. And now they're looking for VIN numbers to find out exactly how bad is this problem? Is it 1 in 5 cars are real? Is it 4 in 5 cars are real? How deep does this go? And no clarity is forthcoming. And I think that's interesting. This is very interesting immigration story. I guess we're long today. Sorry, Al. Here is what's going on at the southern border in the United States.
Trump says he secured the border.
Nobody's coming into our country now. We have the border totally stopped.
We're here in Texas to see what those changes look like on the ground.
We've got the most controlled border we've ever had in the history, and in my lifetime in the Border Patrol, and we're going to continue getting there.
In Eagle Pass, Texas, during the Biden administration, more than 2,000 migrants crossed into the U.S. in a single day. But now, under President Trump's policies, officers encounter just 20 migrants a day here. So the last time I was in Eagle Pass was 2 years ago, almost to the date. And I saw more migrants crossing at a single point in one day than I had in, at that point, 9 years of covering immigration. They were cutting through this barbed wire here and coming across the Rio Grande, sometimes with parents holding their children on their backs as they crossed the water. We saw a lot of rescues. We saw people bleeding as they came under this barbed wire right here. And then we saw hundreds gather under a bridge. They were taken in, processed, and then released either to ICE or elsewhere to pursue their asylum claims. Now it's a total change.
People aren't taking that risk to come across because the end of catch and release is a deterrent in itself. And then with the level of prosecutions we're doing for smugglers and for those entering the country illegally, you add that added deterrence.
We've been out here half the day now, haven't seen a soul. We patrolled the river, haven't seen anyone there either. What we're seeing and what we're hearing from the Border Patrol chief and the agents on the ground here is that anyone who crosses now is arrested, prosecuted, and turned back over into Mexico. You simply cannot cross through here anymore and claim asylum, no matter what your claim is.
There you go. Can't cross in. You know what they're doing instead, though? They're flying them in as refugees, and then they are taking over Michigan.
Its 3 steps was immigrate, increase, eliminate. Immigrate as a religious refugee, increase the number of your followers and demand political accommodation, and then eliminate the previous culture. So I was speaking in Detroit area, and afterwards had people come up and visit around the book table, and they were telling me about a lady who had a ministry to pregnant mothers. So she shows up at a Muslim house, has a little present. Well, out of a bedroom comes another pregnant Muslim mom. Out of a bedroom comes another pregnant Muslim mom. Out of a bedroom comes another pregnant Muslim mom, all pregnant by the same man. He's practicing Sharia law in his house. And then someone else says, oh yeah, Fazil bought a bunch of houses on the street, has a wife in each one.
Where was this?
In Detroit area. The wives go down to the welfare office and say their husband's not around. He goes and visits them, and the more kids they have, the larger the checks get. And he's living like a king at state expense, and all the kids playing in the middle of the street are his children. He's practicing Sharia law on his block. They take over several more blocks, and they vote in the school board. And now they have their Sharia in the schools. And then they take over more blocks. They vote in the police department, fire department. And in Hamtramck, Detroit, they vote in the majority of the city council. They have their minarets, their calls to prayer 5 times a day. No different than Pakistan. So we see the first ones come in as immigrants.
There you go. Where does that sound like? Because it sounds like my town. DC Drano says Canada's cooked. Australia's cooked. Most of Europe, besides Poland, Hungary, and Italy, are cooked. Marxist tyranny and open borders have taken over most Western countries, and it almost fully choked us out here in America, but we broke loose and are fighting back. Once we save America, we got to help save the rest of the West, too. It's a tall order when you understand this. And I think that not Trump's being manipulated, but if this border slams shut, the southern border slams shut, then where else are they're going to move their resources? Because they were paying for caravans of people. Those caravans cost money. Now they're paying for what? Flights? Right? Funding monasteries and PEI. Who knows? Anyway, the whole world is on the precipice. We are in a bad way, and I really don't know which way it's going to go, because this could be a show and tell, and Trump could have some kind of magic plan. And again, I don't think anybody's coming to save us. Trump might save America. And if Trump saves America, then that's an indication that we can save ourselves, not that we will. So maybe somebody comes in and shows us that there is a way to do this. But so far, it seems like most people don't even have the ability to see that we are embroiled deeply in a conflict, and it's not a sure shot that we're going to win. In fact, we might lose, and lose bigly. And that's enough of me. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for your support. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.